The rain poured relentlessly over the quiet city streets, turning the evening into a blur of silver reflections. Umbrellas bobbed through the crowd, people rushing to get home, their faces hidden behind the fog of routine. Emily Carter stood outside the bakery where she worked, tightening her coat as she waited for her bus. She was exhausted, another long day of customers, complaints, and cleaning, but she smiled anyway. Life wasn't perfect, but she was grateful for what she had. Then she saw him. Across the street, under the flickering glow of a street lamp, sat a man, soaked to the bone, head buried in his hands. His shoulders trembled as if every drop of rain carried a piece of his sorrow. People walked past him like he didn't exist. Some glanced briefly, then turned away. But Emily couldn't. Something inside her, maybe instinct, maybe compassion, told her to cross that street. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should interfere. What if he's dangerous? She thought. What if he doesn't want help? But another voice whispered back, what if he does? Taking a deep breath, she ran across the road, rain soaking her hair and shoes. Hey, excuse me, are you all right? She asked softly, bending down beside him. The man lifted his face. His eyes were red and his clothes looked like they hadn't been changed in days. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. I just lost everything, he murmured. Emily's heart sank. I'm so sorry. Here, let's get you out of the rain. She guided him to the bakery's small awning, offering him a cup of warm coffee she still had in her thermos. He hesitated, clearly embarrassed, but she smiled reassuringly. It's okay, she said. We all have rough days. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the rain. Finally, he spoke. My name's Daniel. I used to have a job, a family, a house, but it's all gone now. His eyes stared into the distance. Today, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I came out here thinking no one would notice if I disappeared. Emily's heart ached. She had never met someone so broken, and yet there was something dignified in his voice, something that didn't fit the picture of a man who had given up. You don't deserve to be invisible, she said quietly. No one does. Maybe this isn't the end for you, Daniel. Maybe this is the start of something new. He looked at her, truly looked, for the first time. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me, she smiled gently. Because sometimes a stranger's kindness is what saves us. Daniel's eyes glistened. He nodded, wiping his face. The bus pulled up and Emily hesitated before stepping on. Take care of yourself, okay? She said as she left. He nodded again. Thank you, Emily. You have no idea what this means. As the bus drove off, she looked out the window and saw Daniel still standing there under the awning, holding the empty cup, staring at the spot where she had stood. Emily didn't know it yet. But that one act of stopping, for a stranger in the rain, Ra was about to bring back something into her life she never thought she'd find. Again, something far more powerful than she could ever imagine. It had been 3 days since that rainy night. Emily had almost convinced herself that what she did for Daniel was just a small moment of kindness and something anyone with a heart would have done. But still, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time she walked home past the same street lamp, she'd glance around, half expecting to see him there again. But he never was. Maybe he had found help, she hoped. Maybe he was okay. The bakery where Emily worked, Sweet Haven, was quiet that Tuesday morning. The smell of cinnamon rolls filled the air as she arranged pastries in the display window. Outside, the sun finally returned, painting the wet streets gold. Then the bell over the door jingled. Good morning, she called automatically, turning with her usual bright smile, but the words froze on her lips. Standing there, holding a small bunch of flowers, was Daniel. He looked completely different. His hair was trimmed, his clothes clean, and though he still looked a little tired, there was a warmth in his eyes now, something she hadn't seen before. Emily, he said softly, I hope I'm not bothering you. I just wanted to thank you. Emily blinked in surprise. Daniel, you look so much better. Please come in. He smiled awkwardly, stepping inside. The other customers watched curiously as he handed her the flowers. These aren't much, he said, but after that night, I couldn't stop thinking about how kind you were. I wanted to tell you that you saved me from doing something really, really stupid. Her heart squeezed. "Daniel, you don't have to thank me for that." "Yes, I do." He looked down, his voice trembling. "You saw me when no one else did. That night I was ready to give up. I'd lost my job, my apartment, everything. I thought the world was done with me. But when you crossed that street, it was like someone reminded me I still mattered." Tears glistened in Emily's eyes. "I'm so glad you're still here," she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "You told me maybe it was the start of something new. I think maybe you were right." They sat down at a corner table, sharing coffee and laughter like old friends. Emily listened as Daniel told her how he'd gone to a local shelter the next morning, gotten help, and found temporary work at a small repair shop. "It's not much," he said, "but it's a start. And that's because of you." "You did that yourself," Emily replied. "I just offered coffee." He chuckled. "You offered hope. Coffee was just the bonus." They both laughed, a genuine, warm sound that drew a few smiles from nearby customers. For the rest of the morning, Daniel stayed to help her with deliveries, lifting boxes, and fixing a jammed oven door. Emily was surprised at how naturally he fit in, polite, kind, even funny. It felt like she'd known him far longer than a few days. When the shop closed, he walked her to the bus stop. The evening sky was glowing pink and gold. "You know," he said quietly, "before I lost everything, I used to be a project manager. I had people working for me, responsibilities, plans, but somewhere along the line I forgot what mattered most, and so to people. The kindness you showed reminded me of that, and now I want to give that back." Emily looked at him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "What do you mean?" He smiled mysteriously. "You'll see. I have an idea, something that might help a lot of others who've been where I was." She tilted her head. "Daniel, you sound like you're up to something," he laughed. "Maybe I am. But don't worry, it's something good." As her bus arrived, Emily waved goodbye. "You'd better keep me updated," she said. "Oh, you'll hear from me soon," he replied. And as the bus pulled away, Emily felt that strange, warm flutter in her chest again. The one that whispered this was just the beginning of something much bigger than either of them could imagine. She didn't know it yet. But Daniel's idea would soon turn her life upside down, and the whole town would be talking about it. The next few days passed quietly for Emily. Work, home, and her little routines filled her time. Yet somewhere deep inside, she kept thinking about Daniel and his mysterious words. "You'll see. I have an idea." She smiled every time she remembered that spark in his eyes, a spark of purpose, of gratitude. But she had no clue what he was planning. Until one Saturday morning. Emily arrived at Sweet Haven early, unlocking the door like she always did. But something felt off. Outside there was a crowd forming. A few people were gathered around the corner, whispering, curious. She frowned, confused, and stepped outside. That's when she saw it. Right next to her bakery stood a brand new food stall. Clean, simple, but beautifully designed with a sign that read, "The Kind Cup, coffee for those who need hope." Emily's jaw dropped. Behind the counter, wearing an apron and that same gentle smile, stood Daniel. "Morning, Emily," he called cheerfully. "You're early, but so am I." She hurried over, eyes wide. "Daniel, what is this?" He grinned, wiping his hands on a towel. "Remember how I said I wanted to give back? Well, this is it. The Kind Cup. A little coffee stand for anyone who can't afford a warm drink or a kind word." Emily was speechless. You built this?" He nodded proudly. "I've been saving what little I had. Then a local carpenter helped me build the stall for free when I told him the story. Our story. A few others donated supplies. Turns out kindness spreads faster than people think." Her eyes welled up. "Daniel, this is amazing," he chuckled. "I'm not done yet. I want to do this properly. I want this to be a small movement, something that reminds people they're not alone." Emily could hardly believe what she was hearing. Passers-by stopped to ask about the stall. Daniel explained how anyone could take a cup for free or pay it forward for someone else. A woman in her 50s bought 2 cups and said quietly, "I know what it's like to be down." Another man dropped a few dollars into the tip jar and walked away smiling. Within an hour, the stall was buzzing with life. Strangers were talking, laughing, sharing stories, something Emily hadn't seen on that street in years. It wasn't just about coffee. It was about connection. Daniel looked at her, eyes shining. You did this, Emily. This all started because you crossed that street. She shook her head, laughing through tears. No, you did this. I just offered coffee in the rain. That's the point, he said. A little kindness grows. One act becomes another and another. As the day went on, the kind cup became a symbol of hope. People came from nearby neighborhoods just to see it. Even the local news stopped by for a short interview. Daniel, nervous at first, told their story humbly, never making himself the hero. It was her, he said on camera, pointing to Emily. She showed me that kindness still exists. I just wanted to pass it on. The interviewer smiled. And what do you hope to achieve with this? Daniel thought for a moment. Maybe one day there'll be a kind cup in every town. A place where no one feels invisible. When the camera turned off, Emily looked at him with admiration. You really mean it, don't you? He nodded. Every word, and I want you to be part of it. Me? She laughed. I bake cookies and mop floors. I'm no entrepreneur. He smiled warmly. You're more than that. You believed in someone when no one else did. That's leadership, Emily. She blushed, caught off guard. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said softly. Help me grow this. For a long moment, she just stared at him. The crowd around them, the laughter, the smell of coffee, and it all felt surreal. But deep down, she knew this was no coincidence. Their paths had crossed for a reason. Finally, she nodded. Okay, Daniel. Let's do it together. He grinned wide. You won't regret it. What neither of them knew was that their simple dream, that tiny coffee stall built on kindness, was about to explode far beyond their imagination. And with that success would come tests neither of them were ready for. Weeks turned into months, and the kind cup became the heart of the neighborhood. What began as a small wooden stand beside Emily's bakery had turned into something far bigger, a community of people who believed in giving, sharing and lifting one another up. Every morning, Daniel and Emily would open their stalls side by side, she with her fresh pastries, he with his steaming coffee and a sign that read, Take one if you need it. Leave one if you can. They didn't realize it, but together they were changing lives. There was the old war veteran who came every morning for coffee and slowly started talking to people again. There was the single mother who left a note that said, Your kindness gave me strength to face another day. And then there was the young boy who started helping Daniel clean up, just so he could learn how to make coffee one day. The kindness rippled like waves through the town. But success, even when born from goodness, always attracts something else. Envy. One Friday afternoon, as Emily was restocking the shelves inside the bakery, Daniel came in looking troubled. His usual warm smile was gone. What's wrong? She asked. He sighed deeply. Someone's been spreading rumors about the kind cup. Her heart skipped. Rumors? What kind? That it's fake. That I'm using donations for myself. Someone posted it online. It's getting attention. Emily's eyes widened. That's ridiculous. You've been giving away coffee every day. You hardly make enough to cover the supplies. I know, he said quietly, but people believe what they see online faster than what they see in person. The next few days were hard. Customers who once smiled started walking by without stopping. The local paper that once praised the kind cup published an anonymous letter accusing Daniel of lying about his past. Emily could see the pain in his face each time someone turned away. Maybe I should just shut it down, he said one evening, staring at the empty cups stacked on the counter. No, she said firmly. You can't let lies destroy something built on truth. You started this because someone once showed you kindness. Now it's your turn to fight for it. He looked up, tears in his eyes. But how? I don't want to defend myself. I wanted this to be about hope, not about me. Emily reached out and took his hand. Then let's remind people what it's really about. The next morning, she came to the bakery early with a plan. Together, they organized something they called the Kindness Day. They invited everyone, customers, locals, even those who doubted them, to come and see what the kind cup really stood for. Emily baked dozens of pastries. Daniel prepared coffee for free, and they set up a board with stories and notes from people who had been helped. At first, only a few showed up, but slowly word spread. The veteran came, The single mother brought her little girl. Even the shy boy who helped Daniel clean arrived with a handmade sign that said, "Thank you for believing in us." And then, something unexpected happened. A man stepped forward from the crowd. He wore a suit, looked successful, and had a camera crew behind him. He introduced himself as Tom Hayes, a journalist for a national network. "I saw your story online," he said. "At first I came to expose you, but what I found instead was something this world desperately needs: genuine compassion." The crowd fell silent as Tom pointed to the wall of thank you notes. "This is proof. You're not running a scam. You're running a movement." Daniel blinked in disbelief. Emily smiled through tears. Cameras rolled as the crowd clapped and cheered. By the end of that day, the Kind Cup wasn't just saved. It was reborn. Donations poured in, messages of support flooded social media, and Daniel's story went viral. That night, as the two sat quietly under the same street lamp where they first met, Daniel turned to Emily. "I almost gave up again," he admitted. "But you wouldn't let me." She smiled softly. "Because kindness doesn't quit, Daniel. It just finds another way." He looked at her, really looked, and whispered, "I don't know what I did to deserve you in my life." She chuckled gently. "You started with a cup of coffee, remember?" As the city lights shimmered around them, they both knew this was no longer just a story of helping a stranger. It was a story about faith, in goodness, in people, and in second chances. Months passed since that unforgettable kindness day. The Kind Cup had grown beyond anyone's imagination. What started under a flickering street lamp was now a nationwide movement. Cafes, schools, and shelters had joined in, all inspired by Daniel and Emily's story. Everywhere you looked, people were paying for strangers' coffee, leaving notes of encouragement, and spreading a little bit of light in dark places. But to Daniel and Emily, it wasn't about fame or followers. It was still about that same simple idea. One small act can change everything. One chilly morning, Emily arrived early at the bakery. She loved the quiet moments before sunrise, the hum of the ovens, the smell of fresh bread, the soft glow of dawn painting the windows. But that day, something felt different. Daniel wasn't at the Kind Cup yet, which was strange. He was always the first to arrive. Then she saw an envelope on the counter, with her name written in his familiar handwriting. Her heart skipped. She opened it slowly. "Dear Emily, by the time you read this, I'll be on my way to another city. Don't worry, it's not goodbye. It's a new beginning. We've been invited to open a new Kind Cup branch there, near a shelter that really needs it. But before I go, I need you to know something. The night you found me, I wasn't just lost. I was gone inside. You didn't just offer coffee. You gave me back my will to live. You reminded me that even when life breaks us, kindness rebuilds us piece by piece. You once said maybe that night was the start of something new. You were right. It was the start of everything good in my life again. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. I'll be back soon. Until then, keep the kindness brewing." Emily stood frozen, the letter trembling in her hands. Tears filled her eyes, not of sadness but of pride. The man she once found in tears under the rain was now helping countless others find hope again. She looked outside at the stall, empty now, but alive with memories, and smiled. That evening, she locked up the bakery and took a walk to the very street lamp where it had all begun. The rain had started again, soft and cold, just like that night months ago. She closed her umbrella, letting the raindrops hit her face as she whispered, "You did it, Daniel. You really did." And as if the universe was listening, her phone buzzed. It was a photo from Daniel, standing at a new Kind Cup stall in another city, surrounded by smiling faces, a sign behind him reading, "Inspired by a stranger who believed." Emily laughed through tears. "You'll never stop, will you?" she whispered. A week later, something incredible happened. A young woman came into Sweet Haven, soaked from the rain, eyes red from crying. She sat quietly in the corner until Emily walked over. "Rough day?" Emily asked gently. The girl nodded. "I just lost my job. I don't even know what to do anymore." Emily smiled, the same warm, gentle smile she once gave Daniel. "Wait here," she said, walking behind the counter. A minute later, she returned with a cup of coffee. "Here," she said softly. "On the house." The girl hesitated. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Emily smiled wider. "Because once someone did the same for a stranger. And it changed everything." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. As Emily walked back to the counter, she glanced at the window. The rain had stopped. A faint rainbow arched across the fading sky, and for a moment she swore she could almost see Daniel's reflection smiling back at her. That's when she realized, kindness never really ends. It moves from one heart to another, just like light passing through rain. And as long as someone somewhere decides to care, the world will always have hope.